Good day, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining today's special edition of Teneo Insights. I'm Kevin Kajiwara in New York City. This Thursday, some 90 golfers will tee off at the 87th Masters Tournament at the Augusta National Golf Club, including my guest today, Shane Lowry, who became the second Irish golfer to win a major tournament when he won the 2019 British Open. Shane tied for third with Cam Smith in last year's Masters, which was won by Scotty Scheffler. Other highlights include winning the 2015 Bridgestone Invitational and 2022 BMW PGA Championship, the Irish Open in 2009 as an amateur, and he took second in the extremely challenging 2016 U.S. Open at Oakmont. My colleagues and I are thrilled that Shane wears the Teneo logo on his shirt and does us proud week after week on the PGA and European Tour. So Shane, welcome, and thank you for joining me today. We're excited to have you. So,
no problem. Thanks, Kevin.
Great. So, I just want to start by asking. Here we are, a couple of days before the Masters begins. How are you feeling heading into this year's tournament?
Good, yeah. I feel like the Masters is probably the most special and biggest tournament of the year. Just for the reason I feel like the Open Championship, which was the last major we played, was back last July, and I feel like there's been such a wait for this event, and I think it's all very exciting. Work and prep has been going well, and I'm looking forward to getting started and looking forward to trying to give myself an opportunity to do something very it's hard to win a green jacket, but I'd love to give myself the opportunity again this year. I felt like I gave myself a good opportunity last year. I didn't quite do it, but hopefully give myself a chance this year.
So you talk about this period of time between the last major of the year, which is the Open Championship, and the first one of every season, which is the Masters. So the adrenaline's got to be flowing. You're ready. But I'm curious, Augusta, as you sort of point out, is one of the cathedrals of golf. So what is it like driving down, Magnolia Lane for the first time every year? Does it really get the butterflies going? Does it get you pumped up? Like, how do you feel?
Yeah, it does. It's, you obviously get used to it as the years goes on. I think this might be my 7th or 8th Masters. I'm not actually sure. So you get used to driving down Magnolia Lane. You kind of take that for granted now, but for me, it's the build up to it is the most one of the most enjoyable parts of it and the most exciting part of it, because I love the week prep leading into it. I love the practice. I love trying to do everything right to get myself in a position to give myself a chance to win the green jacket. And then when you get to Thursday morning, you just have to trust that you've done the right things and give it the best shot you can. And some years you're playing good golf going into it. Some years you're not playing good golf going into it. But you're always, you're always trying to be better, and you're always trying to, I suppose you're more, you're hopeful as well as you want so much to do well, but you're hopeful that things are going to go your way, and hopefully things do go my way this week.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned that 7 or 8 tournaments in, you've kind of grown used to driving down Magnolia Lane. That's an amazing thing to think about. But if you go back to the first time you appeared at the Masters, was that, given how storied that course is and the history of that tournament, it's the 87th edition of it, were there butterflies, or is it, and I guess the question is, are there other courses that you particularly revere alongside this one that really give you that feeling, or is it the tournament more than the course that does it?
No, it would be Augusta National and St Andrews would be the two for me that you'd never get sick of playing. I think it's the whole aura and the history of both of them, and what has gone on there in the past. And I've been very lucky to just go to Augusta National over the years as a guest on non-tournament weeks, and even on those weeks it's a very special place. So obviously I feel very fortunate and very lucky that I get to play in the Masters, but even just to be inside the gates and playing the course is very special for a golfer, and I do say the same about St Andrews. But they would be the two places for me that would be like, they're like, for me they're heaven. Like that's when I die and hopefully go to heaven, it'll be either in St. Andrews or Augusta.
That was your choices every day. Yeah, amazing. So I got to ask you though, because it's not every day that I speak to a major tournament winner, but what is it like? What is it like to win your first major? And for the benefit of the audience, what I'm talking about here is the 2019 Open Championship at Royal Portrush in Northern Ireland. You were in the lead by 4 shots going into the final round after setting the course record, I believe, with a 63 in the third round, and then you wound up winning by 6 shots over England's Tommy Fleetwood. So what is it like that night before, knowing you've got that lead, going into the final round, holding on to that lead over the course of that day, and what's it like to win?
Well, the 12 hours or so leading into there, the 16 hours leading into the final round, from when you finish on Saturday evening to when you tee off on Sunday is not much fun, to be honest. I'll be completely honest with you. It's you don't get much sleep. It's hard to eat. Your mind's racing because you do. I suppose when you get to that stage, you do realize how the magnitude of it all and how much. Not that it could change you or your life, but it kind of puts you in history. It puts you down in history in golf, and I always say the difference between good and great are majors in golf, and I feel like I've got one under my belt now. I'd obviously love to get another one, but no matter what I do for the rest of my career, you can never take that away from me. That I did what I did in Portrush. I did it quite impressively, which was even more enjoyable and more exciting. I got to enjoy those last few holes. Walking down the last few holes in Portrush, knowing you have the tournament won is, to be honest, I never even let myself dream about it like that as a kid because, most dreams like that don't become reality. So, it was one of the most special days of my career, probably the most special day of my career. And, you just kind of hope that you can achieve that again someday. And that's why, it's probably the only reason I get up every morning. It's the only reason I go to work every morning is to try and win one of these big ones again, because I do realize now what it actually means to do it.
It's got to be amazing to walk up that 18th fairway toward the green, basically knowing you've got it in hand, not having to make that final putt to bring it home and take the other guy down. But I mean, if you've got it, in a sense, maybe you were able to appreciate soak it all in, the crowds egging you on as you walked up there.
Yeah, like I was, from when I hit my tee shot in 17, that's when I really started to enjoy it. I was walking down the fairways. I was looking for my friends in the crowd. I was looking for my family. Walking down 18, I could see all my family at the back of the green. I spotted some friends up in the grandstand on 18, and just to see the joy that it brings to people's faces, that's, that was the best part. But to be honest, it all happened so quickly that you wish you could just pause and stand there forever and take it all in even more. But it was like I always say, is probably one of the most special things that'll ever happen to me in my lifetime, and I'm very grateful that I got to achieve it. To do it the way I did it in Portrush in Northern Ireland as well, that's you couldn't actually script it any better than that. So yeah, it's definitely it's made me I wouldn't say it's changed me, but it's made, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's definitely I do feel very grateful. I do feel grateful that I got to achieve something like that.
And it must have been incredible. I think you essentially said this, but I mean, you're Irish, but the course is up in Northern Ireland, but it's close to home. You were able to have all of your family and friends there, and just it must have been incredible.
Yeah, and like Portrush, where golf is a one country sport, and to me Portrush is in Ireland, and I played the North of Ireland Amateur there. I won that as an amateur back in 2008, I think. I never dreamed of even playing an Open Championship in Ireland, and the fact that the first time it's been there in however many years, I managed to win the thing and win it by 6 shots. So, things like the Sunday morning. My mum wasn't at the tournament. She was able to get into the car and drive up on the Sunday morning. So to have her there in the 18 green, her and my sister, and, you know, just to have, I always say everybody who was at the back of that 18 green, there were a lot of people had a big influence in my whole career. So, you know, from Graham McDowell to Padraig Harrington to Gary Murphy to my mum and my dad and my sister and my coaches and my manager, but to everyone that was there has had a huge influence in my whole career.
So I got to ask you, though, on behalf of my colleague, Orson Porter, who I know has interviewed you before, and he's a veteran of this program many, many times, but he wants to know what happened to the trophy that night. What did you put the Claret jug through that night?
Yeah, it was, we went back down to Dublin, and my friends got a bar in the city in Dublin, and we decided we were going to go there, but we didn't get there till late, and yeah, I put a bottle of Jameson in there, was the first drink put in there. So that was, I think it was quite a fitting drink to put in there, and it fits perfectly as well. So, yeah, it was filled a few times that night. And you know what, as the night went on, we were out till the very, very early hours of Monday morning. The crowd, I think word got around that I was coming back, and then, you know, there's obviously big crowds there, but as the crowd kind of, you know, got smaller and smaller, it was just left with me and my close friends and some of my family, and that was the most special part. And the days after it were just, there where the good memories are for me. Like, obviously it was amazing to experience what I did on Sunday, but that was such a nerve-wracking experience and such a tough place to be, that it was the joy and the relief of the following days afterwards. And you know, you waking up every morning with the Claret jug in your bedside locker is a pretty cool place to be.
Right. And because of the pandemic, you actually got to hold on to that thing for a couple of years, yeah?
I did, yeah. I had it for 2 years, and obviously things, it's not ideal. I would have liked to defend it the following year, but yeah, I had it for 2 years, and yeah, we gave it a good. It got a rough going over for about 6 months, and then we put it to one side and got back to work. But it was amazing time in my life, amazing time in my career, and like I said, it just kind of builds the hunger and builds the drive to be even more successful.
So going back to, you were talking about, the period between the last major of the year and then the first major of the year, the Masters, and in between there also is the winter off season. And how do you use that in terms of, looking back at what worked and what didn't in the year previous and how your season ended, and as you prepare for that next season, like, is it a complete, how do you approach your game and your swing mechanics and your game management and all of that as you head into the season?
Yeah, I think, you always feel at the end of the year, in golf, there's not a huge off season. So it's kind of, you need to pick and choose your right times to feel like you want to get better at stuff. I think people can get dragged into thinking it's the end of the season, you need to change something. But, 2022 was quite a good season for me. I played very consistent golf. I won on the European Tour. I didn't win as much as I would have liked on the PGA Tour, and I didn't achieve as much as I would have liked. So there were certain things I felt like I needed to, do better. There's certain things coming up this season that I feel like I need to prepare for. Obviously the Masters this week. We've got a Ryder Cup in September, stuff like that. So I sit down with my team at the end of the year, and we talk about things openly and honestly about, how it all went, where do we think we can get better. And you're not talking about reinventing the wheel, you're just talking about getting 1% better in certain areas. And for me, a big thing is Ryder Cup in September, and I feel like it's a hilly golf course. It's going to be a grueling kind of week. I need to be probably as fit as I've ever been for that tournament if Luke wants me to play 5 rounds. So things like that I've started to look at, and I've definitely looked after myself a lot better this year than I have done in previous years. And just trying to, I know I'm not getting any younger, and I want to prolong my career as long as I can. So just trying to do stuff like that. It's not so much anything on the mechanics of my game that's changed. It's, I obviously, I feel like I drive the ball well. My long arm play is good. I chip the ball well. I'd like to become more consistent putter, but I work. So it's not from the lack of work. I try and get better every day at that, and then there's certain other things that I've tried to get better at.
Speaking of not getting any younger, it was your birthday on Sunday, so happy belated birthday to you. And then how do you then prepare, though? I mean, presumably, as we look forward to the PGA, to the Open Championship, to the U.S. Open, to the Ryder Cup in this year as well, that you want to peak then, right, at those before those majors.
Yeah, it's I've always struggled. I think it's hard as a golfer to try and peak at the perfect times. I think you just you set out a plan, you put a plan in place and you stick to that plan. And as long as you believe in that plan and stick to it, there's nothing really more you can do. You go out there when it comes to the tournament and you give it 100%. And if you do that, you sit down at the end of every day and you shoot the best score you can. And I'm kind of, I suppose, like back in 2018, I had a tough couple of years, and I really decided in myself that I was just going to wake up every day and give it 100% on that given day. And as long as I did that, there's nothing more I can do. So that's kind of the way I go about things and the way I try and live my life.
And even though you love the game of golf, obviously, how do you then, I mean, you tell yourself, this is what I'm committed to do. I am committed to 100% of myself every single day. And I think a lot of us try to do the same thing in our jobs, but on any given day, that is not an easy thing to do. Yeah. But the stakes are high in yours because it's so measurable by what the score is on Sunday afternoon and what. So how do you motivate to give that 100% each and every day on those days where it's pouring down rain outside or windy and you don't want to do it or what have you?
Yeah, look, there's obviously, I'm sure like anybody in any business or any job, there's certain days you get out of bed and you don't feel like doing it. But in golf, it's just you. Obviously, you've got your caddy and your team, but it's just you out there trying to shoot the best score you can. So you have no other choice, really. You can't pawn it off on anyone else. You can't send anyone else an email to do your job for you. You just have to go out and do it yourself. And yeah, like I said, there's certain days you don't want to do it, but they're the days that are the most satisfying when you do get through it and do actually end up having a good day. And obviously things. And then, like you said, golf is very results driven and results orientated. So, you might feel like you've given everything on that given week and end up missing a cut or finishing well down the field. But I think you just go back to what plan you had in place and look at that. And as long as you did that, there's nothing more you can do, and you just kind of move on, and nothing you can change about the past, and just move on to the future.
So obviously the Masters is kind of unique in that it's played at the same course each year, and that's a course where you've done well, of course. But as you look ahead at the rest of the majors this season, and you just spoke about the peculiarities of the Ryder Cup this year, but the PGA is going to be at Oak Hill, the U.S. Open, the Los Angeles Country Club, and the Open Championship will be at Royal Liverpool this year. How do you feel? Do those courses work well for you?
Yeah, so I played Oak Hill in the PGA in 2013. So I'm going back there. So I've been there before, but I haven't been there since. So I don't really remember the course, to be honest. But I think there might be a chance I might get up there before the tournament to get a practice round in. Hoylake, I played the Open in 2014 there. I finished ninth that week, so I ended up having a good week. And then the LA Country Club, I was there. I played there in January when I was in LA. So I got a practice round around there, and when we get there, I'll obviously get more practice rounds. But I feel like when I get to any major venue, I feel like my game is equipped to do well around there, and it's just up to me to sharpen my game and get my game in a good enough place where I can allow myself to compete on that given week.
And so, we talked a little bit here about your preparation during the off season, between tournaments and over the course of the season. Talk a little bit though about how you adjust, in a tournament or in even a given round. I'm thinking back. I I think a good example may be like your 2019 Abu Dhabi HSBC Championship. You were up by 3 after 3 rounds, but then the 4th round was really tough until a flurry of much-needed birdies, after the turn, and you come in and then win. So like, how do you make that? It seems to me golf is such an interesting sport because there's so many different parts of the game, from the drive to your fairway game to your approach shot to your putting game. All of those have to be in sync. But at the same time, you're also, you're playing the field, you're playing the course, and of course, you're playing yourself at the same time.
Yeah.
So when things get bad in the middle of a round, how do you get it back? What do you do? It's just you and your caddy out there, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good question because, like I believe that you probably only have your best stuff 3 or 4 times a year. So the rest of the year during tournaments, you're probably trying to fight it as much as you can, and it's a very tough mental battle as well. But yeah, you just have to keep telling yourself that you're doing the right things, you're trying your best. You just need to, we all live and die by routines in golf. We all have our routines, and we all go through them, and as long as I go through my routines and try and execute as best I can, there's nothing more I can do, and it kind of does go back to just giving it my best. And I've been in positions where I've had chances to win tournaments, and I've given it my best, and it's not been good enough. I've been in positions where I've obviously been lucky enough to be on the right side of victory and managed to pull it off. And yeah, you just have to keep going and keep plugging away and keep doing your thing. And I think that's why it's important to have a good caddy and someone you trust by your side. And as long as you're both there and you feel like you're doing the right things, and you sit down at the end of the round and you just hope that it's a good day.
Can you talk about that relationship a little bit? Because I think for people who are, kind of the average viewer of golf, and this has changed a little bit with more microphoning of out there on the course, obviously, but the relationship between the golfer and his caddy is always been something of a mystery to me. I've watched a lot of players who have the same caddy year in and year out. Other players have got more of a revolving door. Sometimes they have their father or their brother on the bag or what have you. But when it really works, why does it work?
Yeah, there's a whole lot of things to a caddy, other than getting yardages and telling you what club to hit and telling you where the wind is. It's I actually just recently got a new caddy. So I've been on tour 14 years now, and I've only had 2 caddies. This is my 3rd caddy. So I've typically I've not been a guy who's changed a lot. I just felt at the start of the year we get off to a bad start, and I felt like it was time to get something fresh on the bag, and I needed a sort of a fresh set of eyes and a kind of a fresh mind when things weren't going well, and when things are going well, I just wanted something different. But yeah, you need to have a lot of things. You need to have like a good companion. For me, anyway, this is how I feel. I need to have a good companion. So somebody you've got stuff in common with, that you can have a chat with. Because at the end of the day, the first 18 holes around Augusta in the Masters probably takes 5.5 hours, and you're hoping you're only going to hit 68 shots. So it's not actually that many, and you're out there for a long time. And so you need someone there to keep your mind going and to keep the conversation open, to know when to talk to you at the right times. You need somebody who's going to be good under pressure, because at the end of the day, we're out there in the biggest golf tournaments in the world in a very high pressure situation, trying to make split second decisions really, on what to do and where to hit and what club to hit and where the wind is, and it is very tough. And you also want someone you can trust. Trust is the big thing and the big key for me. And I feel like I've got someone in the bag now I can trust, and as long as you have that, you feel like you're happy with all your decisions. And you might go out and the two of you might have a bad day together, and but so be it. You kind of move on, you dust yourself off, and you move on. You get going the following day. But it is a very strange relationship, because you actually spend more time with your caddy than you do with your wife. As a PGA Tour golfer, you really do. And it's an interesting dynamic, because you do need to enjoy the person's company as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to pivot here a little bit away from you for a moment and talk a bit about the business of golf. Obviously, it's a big business, but it's also made up of a lot of smaller businesses. Some of them are bigger than others, obviously. And I say that because you, as a golfer, are kind of an independent contractor in a way, and so
Yeah.
you are the CEO of Shane Lowry Inc. effectively.
Yeah.
What's unique about that, of course, is that so you're the CEO of your operation, your support staff and team, your brand, if you will. But you also have to go out there and be the one who executes every day. It's like as if Toto Wolff had to get into the car and win the Formula One race for managing the team, in a sense. So how do you balance the competing needs, and not distract from the really, really critical part is being able to go out there and execute on the course?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's good. Like I am the CEO of my team, and it kind of, what I say goes, which is tough at times because sometimes you need a bit of a kick up the backside and you need to be told, what to do. And I really feel like, for me anyway, I feel like I've been very fortunate. I feel like I've put a great team of people around me, and I've put people I can trust around me. And I've had those people on my side for a long time, and they're not afraid to tell me a few home truths when I need them, and I'm not afraid, and vice versa. I'm not afraid to tell them a few home truths when they need them. So it is an interesting dynamic, and I always say there is a lot more to professional golf than just playing golf. There's everything about it, like you say. There's managing the business side of things. There's, I wake up every morning. I don't need to go and practice every morning. I have to create a want for me to go and practice every morning. I have to organize, when I need to see my coach, when I need to see all the other different people, and when we actually need to meet up. But like I just said, I feel like I've put a great team of people around me from day one, and we're still together, and we're still the same team, and it's working very well so far, and I don't see it ever changing really. But yeah, I think it's very important to have people around you that you trust, and I'm sure that's the same in any business. As the CEO of any business, you need to have people around you and people in that boardroom that you trust and that you can, trust to I suppose to run things when things are not going your way as the top guy. You need people there to help you along the way.
Because you need to go out there and execute every day. You need to have the faith that when you set a direction, everybody will execute. But at the same time, like you say, isn't afraid to sort of speak truth to power, so to speak, and do what you need to hear.
Yeah, exactly, and that's because and I've got a great setup. The way my setup is I said to my agent, I met my agent Connor, like 2009. I didn't even turn pro, and I said to him, all I want to do is play golf, and I want everything else to just fall into place. And we set up structure that's happened, and it's been very good, and it's worked very well.
That sounds like a sort of you live to play golf rather than golf to live, in a way. I mean, do you see other players on the tour who are struggling on that front, that they're out there for the wrong reasons, or I guess there's no such thing as a wrong reason to be out there for, but I mean that they are not in that right mind frame. I mean, as you have said, you're so privileged to be able to be out there and to do this thing that you love more than anything else, and to have fun, but also to be, spoken of in the conversation as somebody who's out there to win major. That's it sounds like you've got the ecosystem around you to help you make that focus. When you look at your fellow golfers on the tour, sometimes you look and say, wow, that guy's got, it's going to be hard to put it together given the way his ecosystem is around him.
I don't really look in too much into what other people are doing. I suppose you look at the top guys, and the top guys in general have a great structure in place in what they do. And then, I have had a few people say to me over the years, a few friends that would be jealous of the structure and the setup I have on my team, because most of my team just work for me, and that's a really nice place to be, because everyone buys into me, you know, whereas a lot of people would have, you know, different coaches and stuff that would have 3 or 4 players, and it'd be a weird dynamic if I was going up against a player in the final round of the Masters who my coach was coaching. I just feel like that'd be a weird dynamic, and he feels the same, and that's why he's probably never took on any other players. So stuff like that, I think definitely helps me. But I do feel like I play golf just to try and win, and I don't play golf for any other reason. But there certainly is people out there that do play golf just for money and just to you know, live, and that's fair enough. That's what they want to do. But I do it the way I do it.
Talk about the difference between, you know, once you achieve a certain level, the prize money and the sponsorships and the like, you know, you can afford all of this that you need to. But how about when you're up and coming? You know, talk about that a little bit, because I know, you know, look, you have to get yourself and your team from point A to point B, right? The travel budget, all that kind of stuff, that is on you. Somebody's got to handle all the logistics and whatnot. And when you're a smaller operation, not operating with the same kind of budget, that's got to be, you know, this is when you're supposed to be honing your game, getting into play with the big boys, and yet there's got to be a lot of distractions because you just don't have as many resources to make life easier.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I've never really thought about the money side of things. I like I said, I put the structure in place at the start, and I've never thought about it. I've always done okay. I've always been okay financially, and been able to look after myself. And obviously, as the years gone on, I've managed to do better and better. I'm now financially stable, and it's great. And you're able to kind of invest in yourself, which is what you want to be able to do at this level of sport. But yeah, I've never thought about it. I've always been one of those people that just doesn't think about the financial side of things, and I've always invested in myself. That's the big thing for me. If I had to spend my last few quid on doing the right thing for my career, I would have done it in the early years, and that's the way I've been, and thankfully it's paid off.
Yeah. So, you know, as I mentioned at the top of the program, my colleagues and I are really, you know, we're honored to have you wear our shirt, because, you know, of the guy that you are, both on and off the course, how you approach the game, how you play the game. And I'll tell you just a funny anecdote story. My late father was a huge golf fan, and admittedly, he was a big Tiger fan. It was sort of Tiger and everybody else. But it was always great to get that phone call from him saying, "Hey, there's a guy with a beard with a Teneo shirt out there on Sunday," you know. So we knew that would always brought a smile to my face, because I knew you were in good shape on that day. But you know, so you wear the Teneo logo on your shirt amongst others. How do you decide then who you want to associate with, and you know, build your brand and what you want to have your name kind of connected to?
Yeah, I think at the start of your career, like, I didn't really know much about it. So like that's what you have an agent for, and you go out there, and to be honest, at the start of your career, you're just happy if you get a sponsor. If you're getting sponsors, you're just happy, and you need it to kind of get by, and like I said, invest in yourself. And then as my career went on, you know, I'm very fortunate that I've managed to pick up a number of great sponsors, and it seems to be like the more, you know, the more successful I've been, like the you know, companies like Teneo come on, and obviously there's an Irish connection there, which is huge for me, and Irish on a global scale is how I see myself. I'm a very Irish person, and that's where myself and Teneo, I feel, fit perfect. And you know, like I said, I'm very fortunate to have great sponsors, and you know, I love working with companies like Teneo, and I love interacting with people, and the thing for me is I go to golf days, and I do things like this, and you meet the most interesting people. You meet great people. You meet, especially when, you know, you're working with a company as big as Teneo, you meet CEOs from some of the biggest companies in the world, and it's just a really cool place to be when I see how I grew up in my childhood, to be that person in there talking to a room of CEOs and them listening to every word you're saying. That's a pretty cool place to be.
Unfortunately, you must also have to witness some pretty awful golf.
Pretty awful golf, but that means we're working very hard. So that's kind of yeah.
Talking about, again, the big picture about the sport of golf. How would you assess the sport now? Obviously, there's a lot of controversy over what's going on with the PGA and Live, but even bigger than that, we're in an environment now where there's just ever more competition for those eyeballs, for audience and fan attention, right? Even fans, I think don't have the same sort of attention span that they used to. And we're seeing this in a multitude of sports. Even obviously Major League Baseball is about to start its season, and they've taken a number of measures to try to shorten the game and things of that nature. What's your assessment of the sport right now?
Yeah, I think it's obviously divided at the minute, which I personally don't think it's good for golf. I think golf is not like in a world scale. Golf is not a huge sport. So to have our sport divided and have some of the top players go to one league and some of the other players, stay on the PGA Tour, I think has not been good. But I am excited about where the PGA Tour has gone in the last sort of few months, and I think they have done a great job at keeping as many top players as they can and creating a better product. And I do think going forward, the PGA Tour is in a great place, and the PGA Tour is going to be really good. I hope all the promises they've made to the DP World Tour they adhere to, and that tour becomes better, because that tour holds a big place in my heart. I've played there for years and I still do. And but yeah, like as regards Live, I don't know how that is going. I don't know how successful it's been. I haven't watched much of it. I watched a couple of things early on. I watched a couple of days of the first couple of events, but yeah, I don't know how that's doing. But what I do know is that the PGA Tour is doing a great job at creating a better product for themselves, and yeah, the bit of competition, people might say it didn't do it any harm, but I still don't agree with that. I think a divided sport, when it's the scale of our sport, is not very good for the sport.
Yeah, it's sort of a double-edged sword in a sense, right? On the one hand, does a little competition actually, drive some of the positive changes that you're just talking about, but on the other hand, it kind of deprives the viewers and the players alike from having some of those phenomenal rivalries week in and week out, always playing out on the same course with each other.
100%, but at the same stage, it'll probably make for a very interesting Masters this week. So, yeah. It'll be interesting to see how things go this week and who's going head to head on Sunday. I just hope it's me. I don't really care who's involved once I am, and
yeah.
But yeah, we just have to see how it all plays out. I don't know how well Liv is going. All I know is that the PGA Tour is doing very well at the minute.
And how about the connection between, professional golf and the everyday golfers that are out there? I mean, we're seeing, everything from the debate that's going on right now about changing the ball, as an example, to, some of these things that like Tiger and others are working on these kind of new golf experiences. Kind of trying to make this shift from a day on the links to a night on the town kind of an experience, more technology being brought to the table. How do you see all of that playing out?
Yeah, like we talk about the ball first. Like I to be honest, I think the most amazing thing about golf is, and I talked about doing golf days with Teneo, like companies like Teneo, and you arrive at the golf course and you're on the same golf course and you use the same equipment. And I think that's what's cool about golf, is that amateurs can use the same equipment as the pros and play on the same courses as the pros. I think if we change that, I don't think it's good for the game. I don't think it's good for the companies. I think, the manufacturers have, been very fortunate. They're probably, through COVID, golf has become very, has grown and become very popular, and the manufacturers are doing very well. And, to kind of go and do this and maybe take a little bit away from them, I'm not sure that's the right thing to do. With the rollback on the ball as well, if we talk about golf taking too long, and it does take too long. It takes 5.5 hours or 5 hours to play a tournament round on the PGA Tour. If we have a ball that's going 30 yards shorter, it's going to take us 6 hours to play around. So that's not going to speed anything up. And then with all the new things that is going on, I think we're just trying to make golf more exciting. I think that's the thing. And I think we're trying to make it quicker. And like you say, it's for young people, millennials now, everyone wants everything now, and everyone wants everything quick. And I think everyone wants everything to happen quick. And I think, golf 5 hours doesn't really suit a lot of people. So I think it'll be cool. I think the TGL will be cool. I hopefully am going to be involved in that at some stage. But I do think that'll be something different and something cool on a Monday night for people to kind of watch. I hope it's successful, and hopefully we can get kind of a different audience into golf.
I wanted to ask you about a couple of other developments. I was talking a few minutes ago about just the increased competition in general from everything, from esports, from other sports, from everything else that's going on in life that's competing for audience time and attention. And one of the latest developments this year, of course, was the Netflix series. Now, clearly, that those producers, when they produced Drive to Survive, changed things for Formula One in a phenomenal way, especially in the United States market. And then they've got the tennis series, and now they've got the golf series, and it appears to be getting a lot of buzz. I'm wondering, and it's interesting because in the first series of Drive to Survive, some of the top drivers, the Lewis Hamiltons, Max Verstappens of the world, weren't as prominently featured. It made stars out of some of the other players further down the grid. How do you feel about this type of intrusion into the game? Is it good? Is it fun? Is it bringing new audience to the actual weekend tournaments?
I think it is good for golf, because I think any growth in like viewership is good. I think it has created stars out of, like, Joel Damon has become like a big hit from it. I think everyone, but just because he's very much people can relate to him. Everybody sees professional sports people and they put them on a pedestal, but Joel Damon is just your everyday guy that just happens to be good at golf, very good at golf. Things like that. People see Tony Finau and the story he has, and I think one thing about it is people see that, they see us golfers and they think we're just golfers, but at the end of the day, we have a life outside of golf, and we've got problems going on behind the scenes and stuff like that. And I think that's what the Netflix show it shows in good light. And if I talk to golf fans, I'm not sure they absolutely loved it like they loved Drive to Survive, but anybody who's not a golf fan that I talk to loved the show. So it's kind of hopefully going to get new people into the game. Because I thought I've never been a Formula One fan, and I watched Drive to Survive and I absolutely loved it. And now I know what's going on. I don't watch racing, but I will watch the Drive to Survive every year. So hopefully it does continue on and do well. I'm somewhat involved in it this year. Will I have my own episode? I don't know. I think they're trying to do a lot on the Ryder Cup, and that'll be cool. So, but it is tough as a golfer, as a person who's, you run your own ship. You kind of, to let those people into your life and have a camera following you around is a tough place, and it's hard, and I find it very uncomfortable because I find it very hard to be myself. But I think that's just the way the world is going, and I think we just have to take it on the chin and go with it.
So when you add all of this up, we talked about the divisions between PGA and LIV, some of these technological developments trying to speed up the game, bringing new audience, bringing younger players in. do you have a vision of where you see the PGA can get, or maybe even needs to get, 10 years down the road, as you think about maybe over the course of, of the career that stretches in front of you?
That's a good question. I've never thought about where I think it should get or where I want it to get. But the one thing I always say, and the one thing I've said, especially over the last year, is just because I'm on the PGA Tour doesn't give me a God-given right to go out and earn millions of dollars and be like whatever. All I want to do is when I'm finished and when I hang up my clubs or whatever, when I'm finished playing the PGA Tour, I want to be sitting back in 20 years' time and watching the PGA Tour and the PGA Tour be better than ever. And I want people to be even more successful than I was. Just like I'm sure the guys back in the 90s are looking at us now and they're probably a little bit envious, about all the money we're playing for and how big and great our tournaments are. I hope to be that person in 20 years' time. And how am I going to... I don't know how I'm going to add to that, just by supporting the tour, just by doing as much as I can and playing as many tournaments as I can and supporting the tour as best I can. I suppose that's the best way for me to be involved in trying to grow the tour and make it better.
Oh, I got to say, it's very refreshing to hear you say that. As you know, here in the business world in Midtown Manhattan, a lot of the people we talk to making millions pretty much feel like it is their God-given right,
Yeah.
as you know. So I want to... I sort of want to close out here by bringing it back to you because, as I mentioned, it was your birthday just the other day. You're a young guy, but what do you think? Do you think at all about what will come next and what the legacy is that you will ultimately want to leave behind? Or are you still at that stage in your career where it's just like, you know what? I need to be winning tournaments. I need to be aiming for those majors. And that will be that at the end of the day, that scoreboard is what's going to determine my legacy. Or do you think in other expansive ways on that?
I'm very much a person that lives like day by day and week to week. I don't plan too much for the future. Like I do plan for the future in certain ways, but I don't. I'm 36 now, just turned 36. I feel I've been on tour 14 years. I don't feel like I've been on tour 14 years. I feel like I don't feel like one of the older guys on tour. So I really don't plan too much into the future. I hope, the thing with golf and the thing that drives me every day, and one of the things that makes me get up every day, there's a few things, obviously success and trying to win the biggest tournaments, but also what drives you is like the fear of failure and the fear of, not being one of the best golfers in the world and the fear of losing your game and all that type of stuff that drives you really, really hard. And that's the thing with golf. I've got a job this year. I might not have a job next year or the year after. You just have to, you have to work at it and be good. So, but then I look at it and look at what I've achieved so far, and I really feel like, touch wood, I don't have to, but if I had to hang up my clubs now, it's a pretty successful career. So I'd be pretty happy with what I have, but that doesn't mean I'm not driven to be more successful. And I'd love to say that I have 10 more years of me on the PGA Tour, and if I got to 45, playing regular PGA Tour golf, I'd be pretty happy with myself. And what is going to happen after that, I've no idea. Because we're very lucky in golf that 36 in most other sports, you're probably looking at retirement. Unless you're Tom Brady, but
Right.
That's why we're very fortunate to play golf for a living.
One of the things that's exciting a lot of golf fans of late has been the sort of almost the handing off of generations. People starting to get excited about Tiger's son Charlie Woods out there, and he's doing some amazing things. But you talked early on. You made that comment when you were talking about how you spend more time with your caddy over the course of the season than you even get to spend with your own family. I know you've got a couple kids. I mean, knowing the joys of it, but also the challenges and the challenges of being away from family, the arduousness of being on the road in both the PGA Tour and the European Tour. Like, is this something you'd want for your kids, or is it like if they loved it, then absolutely? How do you, is that How do you feel
Yeah,
about golf?
I would never be. I don't think I'm going to be a pushy parent or someone that wants. I just want the best for my kids. I would absolutely encourage my kids to go into golf if they wanted to be, because I've got a life that I never dreamed of having, that I never thought I'd have from the game. So I can't speak ill of that. I can't speak bad of that. I think you know, when I look at the lifestyle I lead and the things I get to do and the things I get to experience, golf has been very good to me. So I wouldn't push anyone away from playing the game for a living.
Well, Shane
But it
Lowry,
is very difficult.
Shane, I want to thank you for your time today. This has been a lot of fun for me, and I think your insights and observations of the game, your game, what you're trying to do, the sport, have been really insightful. So, on behalf of all my colleagues here at Teneo, we are going to be rooting for you. All the best this weekend in Augusta, and thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
And thank all of you for joining as well. We'll see you next time. Until then, I'm Kevin Kajiwara in New York.